All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to open up by giving all the praises, honor, glory, and to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Hakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, who rule well and preach the truth and sincerity. Shalom to the hopeful elect. And this is the brother Amawan Ayash from the GMS Indianapolis camp, coming back at you with another quick lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And in today's lesson isn't going to be really too long. It comes to the inspiration of a lesson I watched from the elder out of the GMS Kansas City camp, and basically dealing with how ICE is impregnating underage Israelite women, and we know that ultimately, all right, we're coming into a time like never before, and in the midst of all this chaos and turmoil going on, we know that ultimately, always, right, in the midst of chaos, there's always going to be great. All right, remove the G. But let's get this real quick, or open up with the book of Jeremiah, the 30th chapter. And verse 7, straight to the point. It says, "Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it." So the time we're coming into, right, the time of Jacob's trouble, is going to be a time that takes place upon the planet Earth that cannot be compared, all right, with any major event that has taken place in history, or any major time period that has taken place in history. There'll be a slavery, right? Any time of affliction our people has gone through, right, was getting ready to take place upon the planet Earth in our lifetime is going to far exceed any of that, man. And we know it's going to be a lot of death, famines, right? Esau, Edom, so-called white man coming down with great wrath. People running up into each other's homes, trying to take what they got, take their possessions. You see? And guess what? A woman, right, is a possession. A woman would be a man's possession. So, as the scriptures say, let's get this real quick. I believe it's Sirach, the 36th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. It's Sirach 36 and 25, or starting at verse 24. It says, "He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession," which, that backs up the point, we just made, this statement we just made, that, a woman is ultimately a man's possession, right? When a man gets a wife, all right, ultimately that's his possession, all right, he owns her. It says, "A help like unto himself and a pillar of rest." Here's the point, verse 25. It says, "Where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled." And we know that ultimately, all right, the hedge that, a woman will need to have is indeed a man of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. All right, a man of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right, that's that covering that a woman will need in order to be able to survive in these last days. Because the Lord, he's not going to have it to where, these women, they're going to survive off their own volition, right? They're going to pull out that taser and pepper spray that they've been preserving for the last 10 years and so, and that's what's going to allow them to prevail. No. All right, the way that the Lord is going to give salvation to you women, right, is through one of his men. You see, so like it says, where no hedge is, the possession is spoiled. So if these women don't have protection in their day, then guess what? They're going to be left to the wolves. All right, these troops from foreign countries, right, and the ICE agents here in America, right, they're going to have their pick of the litter in that day. All right, they're going to take advantage, right, of the chaos that's going on in America and get their pound of flesh, right? Take these women by force. You see, because feminism has put up these women on an imaginary pedestal, right, giving them a delusion, right, a power which they don't have. You see, and this society is completely anti-men. So you got a lot of men out there who just lying in wait to get their revenge, man. You see, when all hell breaks loose, man, and you women ain't got no protection, all right, that's when they're gonna come and strike, man. Pounce on you like a lion would pounce on his prey. It says, "And he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning." You see, so ultimately, a lot of these women in these last days, they ain't gonna have no hedge. And you see, they see, especially you Israelite woman, right? They see you shaking your funky ass on Instagram, titties all out, booty bouncing every 5 seconds. You see, and these troops from foreign countries and these guys, these ICE agents, right, and dudes in general are just waiting to get their pound of flesh, man. You see, so that's the times we coming into. All right, we know that back then, right, during the time when the Babylonians came to siege Jerusalem, all right, the same thing was going on. When we read Lamentations, the 5th chapter, and verse 11, right, once again, when you read throughout the book of Lamentations, it's going to the Lamentations, right, the woes, right, the mourning that Jacob was going through, the sorrows that Jacob was experiencing, right, as the Babylonians came and took them over, right. Lamentations chapter 5, verse 11, it says, they ravished the women in Zion and the maids in the cities of Judah. So as the title of this lesson is, says what ICE is allegedly impregnating underage Israelite women. Jacob's trouble. And we know when it comes to Esau, Edom, and so-called white man and his wickedness, all right, this devil knows no boundaries. You see, so this dude, don't put it past Esau, right? This dude, he gonna be getting down with babies, toddlers, all right, women of all kinds of ages, man. You see, so let's go ahead and play the first portion of this lesson, which as you see this, you got this this flamboyant dude going into it, basically a Twitter post going to how I forget exactly what the term was, but basically they were using that term to cover up the fact that these ICE agents are indeed graping and impregnating underage girls. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So that was a phrase, a term used, testing positive for pregnancy.
Is an interesting way to say being raped and impregnated by ICE agents. Breaking. Due to many underage girls testing positive for pregnancy at multiple ICE detention facilities, ICE plans to relocate all underage female detainees to an undisclosed island for safeguarding. What the fuck do you mean? There are little girls getting pregnant all of a sudden and testing positive. Detainee due to many.
And you see, they gonna do it the exact same shit. All right, when they move them to that what did it say? Undisclosed island. You see, so we know what's going down, man. These ICE agents, they getting down, with little girls, impregnating them and things of that nature. You see, and the times we coming into, man, all right, it's going to be on a much larger scale. You see, so real quick, let's get Isaiah the 13th chapter. All right, in verse 13 and verse 1, as you can see, it says, what the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah, the son of Amos, did see. And this speaks to Babylon, right, in prophecy, in terms of prophecy, which that Babylon, a great in terms of prophecy, right, would be America. So Isaiah, the 13th chapter, is pretty much going into the judgment which the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to bring upon Babylon, the great, aka America, and the things that we will be seeing, right, leading up to the complete destruction of this place. Okay, now when we jump to because we actually gonna jump back up here in Isaiah 13. When we jump to starting at verse 15, it says, everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished. Another word for ravish is to what? To grape. You see, remove the G. So this is what's going to be happening in America leading up to the complete destruction of this place. So we're getting ready to see America in a state that it has never experienced before. Talk about all manners of chaos, lawlessness, turmoil. And as we made the statement earlier, right, when within the midst of chaos, there's always going to be grape. Remove the G. So you're going to have kids dying. People running up in one another's houses, taking their goods, their food, their supplies, right? Men having their wives raped right in front of them, man. You see? So this is just these things that we're going into is just one of the many reasons why the scriptures call the time we're coming into a time like never before. You see? Let's go from there to the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter. And starting at verse, the point is verse 2. It says, "For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished." You see? "And half of the city shall go forth into captivity," which, in today's day and age, right, that captivity would be you individuals being placed in these various different concentration camps, all right, these detention centers, which in those detention centers, right, a lot of grape is going to go down. Women are going to be raped, tortured and raped to death. It's a story in the book of Judges, or I think it was either the wife or the concubine of a Levite priest, but pretty much they were traveling and they encountered, right, some wicked Benjamites, and basically what happened was the wicked Benjamites, they raped, right, the Levite priest's wife. I think it was either wife or concubine. They pretty much raped her, right, from evening all the way into morning, just completely abused the shit out of her. So that's what's coming to America, man. A you woman, that's proud, that give the Israelite men shit, that think you don't need no man. All right, when you getting relentlessly pounded, right, from sundown to sun up, all right, that's gonna make you rethink your choices, man. That's gonna make you rethink your whole mindset. It says, "And the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city." So let's go from there to Jeremiah, the 15th chapter, because as I mentioned, right, half of the city shall go forth into captivity. A lot of people being placed into these concentration camps. Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 2, straight to the point. It says, "And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, Whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, such as are for death to death, and such as are for the sword to the sword, and such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity." So it's going to be a lot of great death out here, right? People killing one another in these streets, right? Esau, Edom, so-called white man coming down with great wrath. All right, the lack of food and the lack of water, they're going to contribute to the great death that's going to take place in these last days. And guess what? Such for the captivity to the captivity. People being placed in these concentration camps / detention centers, right, that they may be tortured. You women getting raped to death. Relentlessly pounded from sundown to sunup. That's what's coming to America, man.
An undisclosed
So let's
island
continue,
like the
listening.
Epstein Island? For what? For these girls to give birth to these babies? And for you guys to do what with these babies? Girl.
And this nigga needs to die. It's like it, but goodness gracious, like, enough is fucking enough.
Shit ain't right. Somebody ain't.
So I'm gonna cut it off right there, cause this nigga, man. Anyways, so let me just get a couple more scriptures, and as always, that'll be the lesson. I do pray to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai that this is indeed edifying, informative, and alarming to the elect body of the nation of Israel, and in this case, especially you women in Israel. Because you will need a man of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, to survive in these last days. So let's go back to Isaiah, the 13th chapter. And verse 12, it says, "I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir." Pretty much saying that the value of the man of the Lord, right, is going to be at its peak in that day. When all hell breaks loose, man, and these women see that there's a shortage of men, right? 2 Ezra 16th chapter talks about their husbands shall die in the wars and perish in the famines. You see, so these women are going to realize that the only men left are the men of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and they're going to take notice to the fact that the Lord is indeed with these men. And guess what, man? These women in these last days, right, the same ones who said they don't need no man, these hardcore feminists, things of that nature, right? They're going to change their tune real quick, and they're going to come running down, right, on the men of the Lord. Okay, but for a lot of women, it's going to be too late, man. You see, and the Lord, right, he's only going to give, right, his men to women who are doing right. You see, and hey, the Lord, he's going to allow us to have our pick of the litter. So, hey, man, hey, if the Lord puts a spirit upon us to take you in, man, that's what it's going to be. But the Lord puts a spirit upon us to say, nah, I ain't fucking with this chick, then ultimately you're going to be left out there to the wolves. And you ain't going to have no hedge. And whatever comes upon you, man, that's just that. But hey, man, all these women go be seeking a man of the Lord in these last days, man. And when all hell is breaking loose, man, and your Pookies and Ray Rays and Tyrones, right, done succumb to the famine, right, got shipped off to the war, and he thought, sagging and aiming his gun sideways was going to get him past enemy lines. But now this nigga brain is scattered all across the battlegrounds. And he's out of there. Hey, the men of the Lord really gonna be the only ones, right, left standing that these women are gonna seek unto, man. Let's go from there to the book of Isaiah, the 32nd chapter, and verse 2. It says, "And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land." So ultimately, hey, this isn't just any man. It's going to be a man of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Because the Lord, he's not with these Pookies, these Ray Rays, these Tyrones, right, these men of the world. Right, the Lord is with and is protecting his men. So ultimately, a man of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, is going to be sought after, right, for protection from the various, different incoming calamities, right, woes, judgments, the evils, right. That's what this verse is going into. All right, man of the Lord being sought after for protection, mainly by you women. Okay, and I'll leave you with this in the book of Isaiah, the 4th chapter, verse 1. It says, "And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach." And we always go into it, right, in the ancient days, right, 2 ways a woman would be in reproach is if 1, she didn't have a husband, or 2, she didn't have any children. Really both. But those are one of the 2 ways that a woman would be in reproach. So we know that this number 7, when it talks about 7 women, is going to a number of completion, right? A number of complete women for that individual man. The Lord, he's going to have some of his men, with 5 wives in that day, 10, 20, 30, whatever the case may be, whatever the Lord has made that man's spirit for. And these women, they ain't gonna care about nothing else, right? They ain't gonna care about your height, how much money you make, because it's, money gonna be obsolete in that day. When the mark of the beast is made mandatory, right? The paper dollar, that's gonna be made obsolete. So they ain't gonna care about height. They ain't gonna care about your hairstyle. They ain't gonna care about fucking how much money you make. All they caring about is seeking protection from a man of the Lord. You see? So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off right there. Of course, I didn't plan on making this too long, but nonetheless, I do pray that this lesson was indeed edifying, informative, and alarming to the elect body, the nation of Israel, and especially you women. Because ultimately, this should open your eyes and make you come to the realization that the only way out of this is through one of the Lord's men, if you haven't come to that realization already. All right, and without further ado, I would like to close out by giving all the praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Hakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and preach the truth and truth and sincerity. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Lord, I'll see you in the next lesson. Till then, I say shalom.